Maybe where you come from isn't all that great. Maybe your automobile is a piece of crap. Maybe your fashion sense is a little whack and your friends are just as screwy as you. Either way, Beverly Hills is where you want to be. The Metra Rock Island District will have you rolling like a celebrity. Okay, maybe not quite a celebrity, but today we will be visiting and reviewing every station on the Rock Island Beverly branch. The Rock Island District splits just south of the Gresham station. Most trains going south of Blue Island will stay on the main line, while local service to Blue Island and evening trains to and from Joliet use the slower Beverly branch. All Beverly branch stations are in Zone 2 of Metra's fare system, including Blue Island Vermont Street, meaning a one-way ticket to or from downtown costs $3.75. First, let's visit Gresham. While this station is located north of where the main line and Beverly branch split, only Beverly local trains stop here. It's located on 87th Street in the neighborhood of Auburn Gresham between Vincennes Avenue and Halsted Street. The station is located on a bridge and you have to walk through a fairly gross underpass and climb a flight of stairs to get to this platform. It's worth noting that this station is not accessible. The only way to access the platform is by climbing stairs. Once you get to the platform, you'll see that there isn't very much to it. It's a pretty short island platform with only a small rain shelter on it. Parking is mainly street side, but you can also park at the corner of Vincennes and Halsted or on Genoa Avenue between 87th and 88th Streets. This station was honestly kind of gross, so for me, the best thing about it was its connections. It has a direct connection to 3 CTA bus routes, 8A, 24, and 87. It's also about a mile west of the 87th Red Line station. Continuing after Gresham, let's check out Brainerd. Brainerd Station is one of the newer stations on this branch, opening in 1999. This station has 2 side platforms and a shelter, which was thankfully unlocked. It's not much, but it's decent. I found the old parking token machines really interesting. The Brainerd branch of the Chicago Public Library is right in this area as well, so you can read a book while you wait for your train. The station is located at 89th and Loomis Street in the Brainerd neighborhood, and the trains will usually blow their horns a lot when crossing at 89th and Ashland Avenue. As of right now, parking is $2 a day, just like it is for most other Metro stations I visited. This station is also fully accessible and it has a direct connection to CTA bus routes 9 and 87. Now that we've made it to Beverly, let's talk about 91st Street Station. This is one of my personal favorites. This station was built in 1889 as Beverly Hills Station, making it one of the oldest on the route. It's in a very nice area with a park, and the Dan Ryan Woods is very close by. Even though the station is located at 91st and Prospect Square, parking is located along Beverly Avenue. The main parking lot is on the right-of-way of the former Pennsylvania Railroad's Panhandle line that shared this station. Unfortunately, the station was locked, but that doesn't surprise me. This station is also only partially accessible, meaning individuals using mobility devices can still board trains, but the station may not contain any accessibility features and it has no bus connections. Now, let's move on to 95th Street Station. Let's travel there in real time. One unique thing about the Beverly branch is that the stations are only 4 blocks or a half-mile apart. The stations are so close together that it barely takes any time at all to travel between them, and once you get off you can still see your train once it reaches the next station. "95th Street Station isn't quite as old as some other stations here, as it opened in 1945. You may notice that a lot of the station buildings on this branch are on the outbound side of the tracks, but this one is on the inbound side like most other Metra stations. Before the COVID-19 pandemic, trains used to run on whichever side has the most station houses during peak hours, which in the case of the Beverly branch is on the wrong side. So morning inbound trains and evening outbound trains would run on the same side. Anyway, every single time I've been to this station, the depot has been locked. It has a coffee shop in it, but it's a shame because it's never open. There are 2 side platforms and 2 parking lots. One is located at 95th and Longwood Drive, and the other is farther west at the corner of 95th and Pleasant Avenue. There is also bike parking, some of which even has bike lids. The station is fully accessible and has 3 bus connections, CTA Route 95 and Pace Routes 381 and 395. If you travel a few miles east from here, you can also reach the 95th and Dan Ryan Red Line station, which is over by 95th and State Street. Next up, we have 99th Street Station. This station was built in 1890 as Walden Station, as it is located at 99th and Walden Parkway. This station has a nice design, but as always, the main building was locked. It's located next to a coffee shop though, which is convenient. One weird thing about this station is that it only has one side platform on the outbound side. If you're boarding an inbound train, you have to cross a wooden platform to reach the train. Parking is also not available on 99th Street. There are 2 long parking lots along 100th and 101st Streets and 2 shorter ones on Walden Parkway and Wood Street. You may have noticed that these stations are so close together that when parking for one station ends, parking for the next station begins. This station is also fully accessible and has no bus connections. Now, let's move on to 103rd Street Station. This building looks more modern and boring compared to the rest, as it originally opened in 1892 but was rebuilt in 1950. At least the sign is cool, but as always the station building was locked. They used to leave this one unlocked, but I guess they don't anymore. What a shame, not everyone wants to wait for their train outside, especially considering this is one of the busiest stations on this branch. The station has 2 side platforms with parking available along both sides of the tracks. The station is fully accessible and has a connection with CTA bus route 103. Next up, 107th Street Station. Unlike the previous station, 107th Street contains its original station house from 1892. Metra no longer employs ticket agents, but this station has been unstaffed and neglected for a long time. It's one of the few on this branch that's just about always unlocked, and the inside is rather barren and dirty. The sides of the building are covered in so much ivy that it's starting to grow through the windows into an abandoned part of the station. This place is very run down. It's a shame history is being allowed to waste away like that. You may notice that a lot of these stations were built in 1892 or before, just in time for the World's Columbian Exposition of 1893. Anyway, this station has 2 side platforms with parking available along both sides of the tracks. The station is only partially accessible and no bus connections are available. Next is another favorite of mine, 111th Street, Morgan Park. The streets over here are kind of weird. The station's address suggests it's located on 110th Street, and once you pass the station going east, 111th Street becomes Monterey Avenue until you turn left on Vincennes Avenue to get back on 111th Street. The station house was built in 1892, just like the previous one. This Romanesque style building replaced another station house that was built in the 1870s by the Chicago, Rock Island, and Pacific Railroad. This railroad is how the Metra Rock Island district got its name. It's not very often that I'm able to go inside of here, but thankfully I was able to film inside during a later trip after I filmed the exterior. The ticket booth hasn't been staffed in a long time, and it looks like a fireplace was here as well. Free newspapers and books are provided for commuters to read while they wait for their train. There were more than enough newspapers, but only 2 books on the rack. This station has 2 side platforms with parking along both sides of the tracks. This station also has a direct connection to CTA bus route 112, bicycle racks, and it is fully accessible.
Rock Island Beverly train number 617 to Blue Island and Vermont Street is arriving in approximately 6 minutes. Rock Island Beverly train number 627 to Blue Island and Vermont Street is now arriving.
Let's move on to the other station in Morgan Park, 115th Street. You may notice that this place looks more like a bus station than a train station. That's because the station house unfortunately burned down in May of 2017 and had to be demolished. The cause of the fire was ruled to be arson, but sadly no one was caught. The original station house was built in, you guessed it, 1892. Today only bus station-like shelters are here. Better than nothing, I guess. This station has 2 side platforms with parking along both sides. The station is partially accessible and no bus connections are available. Honestly, you will be better off going to 111th Street. This place just makes me sad. The next 4 stations on this branch are not in Chicago, but in the neighboring suburb of Blue Island. First up is 119th Street. This place reminds me a bit of 107th Street with how run down it looks. But of course, it was locked. At least they have an unlocked shelter similar to the ones at 115th Street. Just like the previous Morgan Park stations, this station has 2 side platforms with parking along both sides of the tracks. The station is partially accessible and no bus connections are available. Next, let's visit 123rd Street. This station is quite the nothing burger as it only has 1 enclosed shelter and 1 side platform. It's surrounded by a nice wooded area and a Metra facility which neatens up this otherwise bland station. This station is a flag stop, meaning trains will only stop here if the engineer sees someone on the platform or if a passenger requests to get off here. Parking is available along 123rd Street. The station is not accessible and no bus connections are available. This next nothing burger is Prairie Street. Just like the previous station, it is also a flag stop with only 1 side platform. The previous station and this one are 2 of the least used stations on the entire Metra network. 2 rail yards, the Burr Oak Yard and the Iowa Interstate Railroad Chicago Rail Link, separate this station from the Rock Island Main Line. This yard also seems to be a hub for Metra's own police force. There are parking lots along both sides of the tracks. but the station is not accessible and no bus connections are available. Our last stop on the Beverly branch is Blue Island, Vermont Street. I'm not going to go into too much detail since I'm going to make a separate video about this station. Most Beverly local trains terminate here, except for the late night ones that run all the way to Joliet, but you can transfer to a mainline train to Joliet outside of those hours. The terminus for the Metra Electric Blue Island branch is also across the street. The station house for the Rock Island line is very nice, at least when it's not locked. It even has a bathroom, which was clean, unlike the other stations I visited. Vermont Street is the centerpiece of the entire Rock Island line, and it's one of the busiest stations on the line. The current brick station house opened in 1868, it was renovated in 2022, and it replaced another depot from 1852. I love how it has the old Rock Island logo on the outside. This station has plenty of parking, it is fully accessible, and it has a ticket vending machine. It also has a direct connection to a few Pace suburban bus routes. Now that we're done exploring the Rock Island Beverly branch, let's talk about two nearby stations on the main line. If you want to transfer between local service and mainline service during rush hour, you can get off at 95th or 103rd and travel about a half mile east to the main line, which runs along Vincennes Avenue. At 95th and Vincennes is the 95th Street Longwood Manor station. It is little more than an open plexiglass shelter, and it is served during peak hours only. As I like to say, this one is quite the nothing burger. It only has one side platform with parking lots along Vincennes Avenue and Genoa Avenue. The station is partially accessible and both CTA and Pace bus connections are available. Now, for a much nicer station, let's go to 103rd Street, Washington Heights. This station was just extensively remodeled. It looks completely different than it used to, and it honestly looks amazing. But of course, it was locked. Just like 95th, this station is only served by rush hour trains and a select few reverse peak trains. It only has one side platform with parking along the former right-of-way of the Panhandle line at 104th and Troop Street. The station is fully accessible, including a touchless door activator, and CTA bus connections are available. So, which station is your favorite? Feel free to let me know in the comments what you think about these beautiful stations. I hope you enjoyed my tour and review of the Metra Rock Island Beverly branch, and thank you very much for watching.